The 1990 McDonald's All-American team has a solid mix of future pros and solid college players. That said, there are still a few good players who, for whatever reason, didn't make the cut in 1990. The list of players who didn't make the squad includes 4-time All-Star Penny Hardaway, 1-time All-Star Jamal Mashburn, 3-time All-Star Eddie Jones, and Heisman Trophy winner turned NBA role player Charlie Ward. With all of that said, let's take a look at what happened to every McDonald's All-American player from the 1990 squad. Adrian Autry. Autry was born in North Carolina, but moved to Harlem when he was 5. He starred for Tualatin in the Bronx alongside teammate and fellow McDonald's All-American Malik Sealy. Autry decided to attend Syracuse and play under Jim Boeheim. The 6'4" point guard was an instant starter for the Orangemen, averaging 9.7 points, 5.3 assists, and 2 steals as a freshman. Those numbers would improve to nearly 17 points, 6 assists, and 5 boards by his senior season. During that time, he was named to the All-Big East team twice, and is one of only 3 players to lead Syracuse in assists 4 times. As of 2024, he sits in 5th in career assists and 6th in steals for Syracuse. Despite his college accomplishments, Autry went undrafted in the NBA and decided to head overseas where he'd make more money than trying to latch on as a practice player. He played across the globe until retiring in 2005. Autry moved to Virginia and started working for UPS while coaching at a high school. He continued to coach at that level until Virginia Tech signed him as an assistant in 2010. In 2011, he joined the Syracuse staff. By 2017, he'd been promoted to associate head coach, and in 2023, Autry was officially promoted to head coach after Boeheim stepped down following 47 years at the helm. He's hoping to build on his 2012 opening year when the NCAA season kicks off in 2024. His son Trey will suit up for George Washington's basketball team in 2024 as well. Damon Bailey. When Bailey was 14, Indiana coach Bob Knight watched 2 of his games and said afterward, "Damon Bailey is better than any guard we have right now. I don't mean potentially, I mean better today." That quote was included in John Feinstein's book, A Season on the Brink, and started Bailey's prep legend. As a freshman, he led Bedford North Lawrence to the state Final Four, averaging 23 points a night. He continued to produce, but it was his senior year that really cemented his legacy among Indiana basketball fans. B&L made it to the championship game against undefeated Concord High. Playing in front of 41,000 people in the Hoosier Dome, Bailey dropped 30 points, including B&L's final 11 points, to storm back and win 63-60. That wrapped up an excellent high school career that saw Bailey score 3,134 points, an Indiana record that still stands. Needless to say, big things were expected from Bailey when he signed to play for Knight at Indiana. Bailey largely delivered alongside former McDonald's All-Americans Greg and Pat Graham and 1993 Player of the Year Calbert Chaney. He never averaged below 10 points a night over his 4 years with the Hoosiers. In 91, he won Big Ten Freshman of the Year, and he made the All-American team in 94 after most of the other stars had left or graduated. As of 2024, he's sitting in 9th place on the Hoosiers' all-time scoring list. The Pacers selected Bailey with the 44th pick in the 94 draft. He was cut after a season that was mostly spent on the injured list. Bailey then played in the CBA for several years, making the All-CBA team in 98. In 99, he signed with the Cavs, but never played a game. He retired from playing in 2003. By 2005, he was working as the coach at his high school alma mater, but left after 2 seasons. He then worked as the assistant coach for the B&L Lady Stars team for 4 seasons, helping the team win a state title in 2013. He was promoted to head coach the next season after the previous coach left for the Butler women's team. The next year, the same coach brought him onto her staff with the Bulldogs. It's worth noting his daughter Alexa was playing for Butler after playing for the coach at B&L. He left the job in 2017 after his daughter graduated and has been working in the business world in the years since. His son Brayton played at the University of St. Francis, Indiana, and NAIA school. Shawn Bradley. Bradley was born in West Germany, where his father was working at a U.S. military hospital, but soon moved to Utah, where he was raised in the LDS Church. By the end of junior high, he was already 6'8", and he'd eventually top out at 7'6". While he also played football and baseball, basketball was his main sport. Over his high school career, he averaged 20 points, 11.5 boards, and 5.4 blocks per game. As a senior, he won co-MVP at the McDonald's All-American game before heading to BYU for college. He was an instant star, averaging 15 points, 8 boards, and 5.2 blocks a game. In fact, he led the country in total blocks and blocks per game, setting NCAA freshman records in both categories. He was named the WAC Freshman of the Year and an honorable mention All-American. After the season, Bradley took a 2-year leave of absence to serve as a full-time missionary for the LDS Church in Sydney, Australia. When he got back from his mission, Bradley decided to skip the rest of his college career and entered the '93 draft. Because of his height and rail-thin build, he was viewed as one of the most interesting prospects. The 76ers picked him second overall in the draft, just ahead of Penny Hardaway and another McDonald's All-American we'll get to shortly. His weight and relative inexperience made him something of a project, and Philly brought in Moses Malone to help mentor the young big man and Jeff Ruland to help him add some bulk. Despite his status as a project, Bradley averaged 10 points, 6 boards, and 3 blocks as a rookie to make second-team All-Rookie. That said, he was consistently inconsistent and suffered a season-ending injury that kept him to only 49 games. He came back healthy and continued to improve. However, the team ultimately decided to trade him to the Nets in '95 for Derek Coleman. To finish his third season, Bradley played well with New Jersey, averaging 12.5 points, 8 boards, and nearly 4 blocks a night. Around this time, Bradley also made a fan-favorite appearance in Space Jam. The Nets came under new management ahead of the '96 season, with John Calipari taking over as head coach and John Nash replacing Willis Reed as GM. They didn't believe in Bradley and traded him to Dallas in the middle of '97. Bradley would spend the rest of his career with the Mavs. He got off to a hot start, averaging 15 points, 9 boards, and 3 blocks. However, he continued to struggle with his consistency on the offensive side of the ball, and coach Jim Clemens experimented by playing Bradley off the bench. It worked pretty well in several games. Bradley even became the 5th player in NBA history to score at least 20 points, 20 boards, and 10 blocks in a single game. He played in Dallas through 2005, continuing to provide game-changing defense alongside Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash. After retiring, Bradley started working at a private school for at-risk youth in Utah. In 2010, he tried to enter the world of politics, but lost his bid for the Utah House of Representatives. In 2021, Bradley was hit while riding his bicycle, which resulted in a spinal cord injury that left him paralyzed. The next year, his family was in the process of moving to Texas to find a more wheelchair-friendly house. Jamie Brandon. Brandon was one of the finest high school phenoms the Chicago area had ever seen, which is saying something considering how many great players the city has produced. However, Brandon stood out after dropping more than 3,100 points across his high school career. During the McDonald's game, he was set to attend Illinois, but he would ultimately end up at LSU in '91-92 for his freshman season. Playing alongside Shaquille O'Neal, Brandon averaged 10 points and 4 assists. When the big man left, his assist numbers went down, but his scoring went up to 12 a night while adding 5 boards. He took his game to another level as a senior, averaging 16.5 points to lead the Tigers in scoring. Brandon went undrafted and never played in the NBA. I wasn't able to find anything to him pointing playing overseas or in another domestic league, but I wouldn't be surprised. As of 2018, Brandon was working as a basketball trainer and high school coach back in Illinois. Anthony Cade. Cade moved from New York to Virginia to attend Oak Hill Academy in high school. He was set to attend Louisville, but had academic eligibility issues, so he ended up spending a year at Connor State Junior College. The 6'10" big man led Region 2 in scoring at 26.5 points and 13.4 rebounds per night. He then transferred to Seminole Junior College for a season, averaging 17.7 points and 9.5 boards. He then signed with Oklahoma, but hired an agent before playing with the Sooners and went to the NBA draft. He went undrafted and started playing overseas and in the CBA and USBL. That included stints in Argentina, Finland, and France. Since hanging him up, he's faded into obscurity as one of the many what could have been players of his era. Bill Curley. The 6'9" Curley gained a reputation for being an outside shooter in high school. He received offers from several major programs, but signed with Boston College. The team went 11-19 during his freshman season, but Curley averaged 13 points and 7 boards to win Big East Rookie of the Year. He improved on those numbers over the next 3 years, finishing his senior season with 20 points and 9 boards a night. Curley was named to 2 All-Big East teams and 1 All-American team for those efforts, while turning BC around. The Eagles went 23-11 that season and made it to the Elite Eight in Curley's only NCAA tournament appearance. The Spurs selected him with the 22nd pick in the '94 draft, and he was traded to Detroit before ever playing. Curley played sparingly during his rookie season and sat out the next 2 years with an ankle injury. When he finally got back onto the court, Curley was now playing with the Timberwolves. He played 4 more seasons with 4 different teams, retiring after the 2001 season and career averages of 2.7 points and 2 rebounds. Curley then moved back to his hometown and ran basketball summer camps until 2011, when he became an assistant at Emerson College. In 2014, he took over as the head coach, where he still works as of 2024. In 2019, he led his team to its first ever D3 NCAA tournament appearance. Darrin Hancock. Hancock was born in Alabama, but moved to Georgia in the 6th grade. He had a star-studded high school career and was widely seen as one of the top 5 players in his class after averaging 30 points and 9 boards during his senior season. He originally signed with UNLV, but didn't meet academic eligibility requirements under Prop 48, so he went to Garden City Community College in Kansas for 2 seasons. His first season was solid, but Hancock was named the NJCC Player of the Year during his follow-up campaign, catching the eye of the Kansas Jayhawks. He signed with Kansas, and expectations were high. Coach Roy Williams said, "Darrin is one of the best athletes in the nation, and he will be one of the best athletes to put on a Kansas uniform." For their part, the Jayhawks capitalized on the hype, making it to the Final Four in Hancock's first season. However, the swingman played a secondary role, only averaging 7.5 points a night. The next summer, Hancock unexpectedly left the school after not attending summer school and transferred to Indiana State. He never played for the school after deciding to switch plans and play overseas. He played in France for a season, and then the Hornets selected him in the 2nd round of the '94 draft. He mostly came off the bench during his time in Charlotte, but did play well in limited minutes, especially when filling in for injured starters. However, the team decided to move on after the '95 season, and Hancock signed with the Bucks, who wanted to use his tough-nosed defense. He played in 9 games before being traded to the Suns. Hancock picked up a knee injury and was released. Soon after, he was signed by the Hawks after starter Tyrone Corbin picked up a sprained ankle. He played in a few games before being released, and then played in the CBA until the Spurs offered him a 10-day contract. He played in a single game before being waived, and then signed back up with the Hawks, where he finished the season. Hancock never made another NBA roster, but played in the USBL and CBA through 2005, making 2 All-USBL teams. After wrapping up his playing career, he moved back to Griffin, Georgia, where he's living with his family. His son played college football at Garden City Community College. Grant Hill. Hill's father, Calvin, played pro football in the 70s and 80s and was the NFL Rookie of the Year in 1969. The running back played his first 5 seasons in Dallas, where he was the first Cowboy to have 1,000 yards rushing. During his time in Dallas, he had his son Grant. The Hills would eventually move to Virginia, where the younger Hill played high school ball. The 6'8" do-everything guard decided to sign with Duke, though his mom wanted him to play for Georgetown and his dad preferred North Carolina. It turned out to be a very good decision for Hill, as he won 2 NCAA championships, made 2 All-American teams, 3 All-ACC teams, and was named the '94 ACC Player of the Year. Alongside previous McDonald's All-Americans Bob Hurley and Christian Laettner, Hill averaged 15 points, 6 rebounds, nearly 4 assists, and almost 2 steals a night over his 4-year career. Of course, he's most widely known for tossing a Hail Mary pass to Laettner in the '92 regional final against Kentucky that would go down in history as the shot. In '94, the Pistons made him the 3rd pick of the '94 draft. It immediately paid dividends, as Hill was named Co-Rookie of the Year with Jason Kidd. The next year, he made his first of 7 All-Star teams and made the All-NBA team for his first of 5 appearances. With the Pistons, Hill became the premier point forward in the NBA, blending his height with the ability to do just about everything for the team. He's one of 3 players, alongside Wilt Chamberlain and Elgin Baylor, to lead their team in scoring, rebounding, and assists more than once. However, despite his individual accomplishments, Hill's Pistons never saw much playoff success. In 2000, he decided to sign with the Orlando Magic as an unrestricted free agent. At the time, he was one of only 3 NBA players to amass at least 9,393 points, 3,417 rebounds, and 2,720 assists in their first 6 years. The other 2 are Oscar Robertson and Larry Bird. Luka Doncic and LeBron James have since joined the club. Technically, he did a sign and trade deal with the Pistons, which is how Ben Wallace ended up in Detroit, so he really did his former team a solid. When he joined the Magic, many thought he and Tracy McGrady would turn Orlando into an elite squad. However, his first 4 years with the team were marred by persistent ankle injuries. He played in 4 games his first season, 14 in the second, 29 in the third, and missed his entire 4th season due to injury. At one point, doctors refractured his ankle to try to realign it with his leg bone. That led to a potentially fatal MRSA infection. Fortunately, Hill recovered. Unfortunately, McGrady had been traded to Houston, so the duo never got a real chance to play together. Hill played in 67 games in 04-05 and made it back into the All-Star team. However, he endured another big injury the next season and only played in 21 games. Many thought he might retire, but he came back and played in 65 games the next year, averaging double-digit points once again. Ahead of the 2007 season, Hill signed with the Suns. Playing alongside Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, and Shawn Marion, Hill had a career resurgence, playing more of a complimentary role and getting votes for Defensive Player of the Year in 09, 11, and 12. In 2010, the Suns made it to the Western Conference semifinals, giving Hill his first playoff series victory after 15 years in the league. In 2012, he signed with the Clippers for one last season, playing in 29 games. He retired after the season with career averages of 17 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and more than 1 steal a night. Despite playing for nearly 20 years, he's one of the great what-ifs in NBA history due to his consistent injury issues. After retiring, Hill got into the broadcast world with CBS. In 2015, a group including Hill purchased the Atlanta Hawks, making him a co-owner of the team. In 2021, he joined USA Basketball as the managing director through the 2024 Olympics. In 2024, a group including Hill purchased the Baltimore Orioles. Eric Montross. Montross was one of 4 players from this team to join North Carolina. The 7-footer mostly came off the bench during his freshman season, but became an everyday starter in year 2 when he averaged 11 points and 7 boards. As a junior, he boosted that to 15 points and 8 boards while making the All-American squad and winning a national championship. Interestingly, that title win was over the Michigan Wolverines, which his dad and grandfather had both played for when they were in college. Montross made the All-American roster again as a senior, and the Celtics picked him with the 9th selection in the '94 draft. His rookie season was his best, as Montross averaged 10 points and 7.3 boards to make the all-rookie second team. After that season, his game largely fell off, and Montross was traded around several times over the next few years. He played through the 2002 season, but played for 6 different teams over his career. Montross retired and joined the UNC broadcast team as a color commentator. He worked with the team for 18 seasons until he sadly passed away after a fight with cancer in 2023. Dwayne Morton. Morton went to Louisville for college ball. He sat out his freshman season, but was an instant impact player when he got onto the hardwood, averaging nearly 14 points a night. The next year, the number rose to 16, and while it dropped slightly to 15 during his senior season, the Warriors selected Morton in the second round of the draft. He played in 41 games with the team, averaging 4.1 points and 1.4 boards. Morton then moved overseas, playing in Israel, France, England, the Dominican Republic, and Bulgaria until he retired in 2010. Since hanging him up, Morton has moved back to Indiana, where he works as a basketball trainer and coach as of 2024. Ed O'Bannon. O'Bannon was originally set to attend UNLV, but didn't sign his letter of intent. The school was then placed under probation, and O'Bannon switched to UCLA. 6 days before practice was due to start, O'Bannon tore his ACL during a pickup game and was told he may never walk properly again. However, he received a ligament graft from a cadaver, and 18 months later, he was playing basketball again. He played sparingly during his first year, but exploded into the starting lineup in 92-93, averaging 17 points and 7 boards. The next year, he pushed those numbers to 18 and 9 when his brother Charles joined the Bruins after making his own McDonald's roster. As a senior, Ed dropped 20 points a night and led UCLA to a national championship. He also won several Player of the Year awards and the Final Four Most Outstanding Player award that season. The Nets selected him 9th overall in the '95 draft, which was frustrating for O'Bannon as he wanted to be drafted by a West Coast team. Despite playing well in college, he never found a spot in the NBA. O'Bannon says it wasn't that his knee continued to break down, but a lack of confidence that ultimately ended his NBA career in '97. Either way, he would play for several years overseas and in the CBA until retiring after the 2004 season. O'Bannon was working at a car dealership as of 2009, while also doing a bit of coaching with his kids. That said, his most notable post-playing development was the 2011 antitrust class action lawsuit against the NCAA that eventually helped lead to the current NIL rules that allow athletes to get paid. Of course, it also meant we went a decade without an NCAA football game, so swings and roundabouts. Ed's daughter Jasmine played college ball at UNLV in the mid-2010s. His nephew Chuck was a McDonald's All-American in 2017 and played for USC and TCU in college. He's currently playing overseas. Derrick Phelps. Phelps is another North Carolina lad from this class that would help the team win that '93 title. The 6-foot guard didn't play a starring role with the team during his 4 years, posting career averages of 7.3 points and 4.8 assists, but the distributor set the table for his teammates and made the All-ACC team during his senior season. When he left school, Phelps was the leader in career steals and was the only player in ACC history with 600 assists, 400 boards, and 200 steals. The stat sheet stuffer went undrafted in '95 and spent some time playing in the CBA. He performed well enough there to get a contract with the Kings in '95, where he played in 3 career games. The Grizzlies picked him in the '95 expansion draft, but he never played for the team. He also spent time on the Bucks and 76ers preseason squads. That said, Phelps spent most of his time playing overseas, including a successful stint in Germany, where he was named the league MVP in 2011 and led his Berlin team to back-to-back championships. Following his playing days, Phelps joined Fordham University as a video coordinator. In 2011, he joined Monmouth's staff as an assistant. He then joined Columbia University in the same position in 2014. He left there to coach at San Francisco for 3 seasons before joining the Washington State staff in 2019. He was there until 2022 when he stepped down. Phelps joined Monmouth soon after, but quickly left to join the Marist staff, where he's still working as of 2024.
Brian Reese. Reese starred at Tulatine alongside Autry and Seeley. He would head to UNC to play college ball under Dean Smith, helping win that '93 title game. Over his 4 years, the 6'6" forward averaged a hair over 8 points a night. He went undrafted in '94 and spent the next 7 years playing overseas in Austria, Belgium, the Dominican Republic, England, Finland, Iceland, France, Korea, Taiwan, and Puerto Rico. In 2010, he signed on as an assistant coach at High Point. He moved to Monmouth in 2011 before becoming the head coach at Georgian Court for 2 years. He then joined Illinois State as an assistant and is back at Monmouth in an assistant role as of 2024.
Khalid Reeves.
The other co-MVP of the McDonald's game was high school teammates with Phelps and played his college ball at Arizona.
Reeves was a walking bucket from the jump, averaging 9 points as a freshman. That number continued to rise until hitting 24 as a senior. That year, he and Damon Stoudemire led the Wildcats to the Final Four, where they lost to eventual champs Arkansas. When he finished his Arizona career, Reeves was 3rd on the Wildcats' all-time leading scorer list and 1st in single-season scoring. He still holds the latter record, but has dropped to 5th in the all-time rankings. The Heat selected Reeves with the 12th pick in the '94 draft, and the point guard carved out a solid career as a backup. His best season came as a rookie, when he averaged 9.2 points, 4.3 assists, and just over a steal a night. Reeves played through the 2000 season, but never spent more than 2 seasons with the franchise. That constant shuffling couldn't have helped his development, but to his credit, Reeves was always a threat to go on a heater off the bench. That said, his minutes would start to dwindle by '99, and he left the NBA in 2000 after playing in only 3 games with the Bulls. Reeves then spent the next several years playing in a few other domestic leagues and around the world until retiring in 2005. As of 2011, he was coaching at his high school alma mater back in New York. Rodney Rogers. The Durham Bull averaged 28 points and 12 boards during his senior season before signing to play with Wake Forest. This 6'7" forward was an instant star, averaging 16 points and 8 boards as a freshman to win ACC Rookie of the Year. As a sophomore, he dropped 20.5 points and 8.5 boards, and his senior year saw him boost his scoring to 21, while his rebounds dropped off slightly. He was named ACC Player of the Year and made the All-American roster for those efforts. Rogers decided to skip his senior season, and the Nuggets picked him 9th overall in the '93 draft. While he largely came off the bench as a rookie, he was part of the first 8th-seeded team to beat a 1 seed in NBA history when Denver took down the Supersonics. The next year, Rogers became a starter after LaFonso Ellis was injured and played well enough to earn votes for the Most Improved Player award. However, Denver traded him to the Clippers in a package deal that brought Antonio McDyess to the Nuggets. Rogers played with LA for 4 seasons, starting most of his games and averaging around 13 points a night. However, his 4th season was marred by injuries and his scoring fell into single digits. He was traded to Phoenix in '99 and came off the bench to average 14 points a night and win 6th Man of the Year. He was again a force off the bench in 2000, finishing in 6th place for 6th Man of the Year. Midway through the 01-02 season, he was traded to Boston. Rogers finished out the season there and signed with the Nets as a free agent. While his play slowly started to fall off as he aged, Rogers continued to be a solid bench player through the 2005 season, spending time with the Nets, Hornets, and 76ers. After retiring, he moved back to Durham and started working for the city. While he was set for life financially, Rogers liked working with big trucks and construction equipment. In 2008, he was in an unfortunate ATV crash that left him paralyzed from the shoulders down. While he'll never walk again, barring something miraculous, Rogers opened a foundation and has been touring the country as a motivational speaker in the years since. Both of his daughters played college basketball, Rodrika at Georgia Tech and Didi at NC State. Clifford Rozier. Rozier was another player who signed with UNC to start his college career. The big man came off the bench for all but one game as a freshman, averaging 5 points and 3 boards. After the season, Cliff decided to transfer to Louisville. He had to sit out for a season, but was an instant starter with the Cardinals when he suited up. Over his 2 years at the school, Rozier averaged 17 points and 11 boards a night. He was the Metro Conference Player of the Year both seasons and made first-team All-American in '94. Unfortunately, behind the scenes, Rozier had already started to abuse alcohol during his time in college. After the '94 season, he moved to the NBA, where the Warriors selected him with the 16th pick in the draft. His rookie season was solid, averaging 7 points and just over 7 boards, while starting 34 of 66 games. However, he ended the season on a sour note, blowing off the team's mandatory exit interview to head back to Florida early. The Warriors kept him around for another year before giving up on him one game into the '96-97 season and shipping him to Orlando. The Magic cut him, and Rozier signed with Toronto for the rest of the season, but the Raptors didn't pick up his contract the next year. Instead, he played in 6 games for Minnesota before he was out of the NBA for good after the '98 season. Rozier moved back to Florida, and no one heard from him for several years until a reporter named Chris Anderson published an article detailing Rozier's issues with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and drug addiction. Thankfully, he had overcome his addiction demons by the time the 2018 article was written, and Rozier was living in a halfway house, saying he enjoyed the structure after so many turbulent years. Sadly, Rozier passed away after a heart attack in 2018. Melvin Simon. Unlike many players in this class, Simon didn't play for a traditional power for college ball, staying in state to play for New Orleans under Tim Floyd. That said, the 6'8 forward partnered with Irvin Johnson to lead the Privateers to 2 NCAA tournament appearances. Simon never averaged below double digits, putting up 13 points and 8 boards a night over his 4-year career. During his senior season, Johnson had graduated, and Simon dropped 16 points and 12 boards a night to make his second All-Sun Belt team. Simon never played in the NBA, but did play overseas for 16 years, spending time in France, Spain, the Philippines, Puerto Rico, and several other countries in between. In 2011, he went back to New Orleans to finish his degree and has since been working as a teacher and coach at the high school level. Michael Smith. The Animal had to sit out a season due to Prop 48, but played his college ball at Providence. Across 3 years, Smith averaged 12 points and 11 boards, dominating opponents for head coach Rick Barnes. For those efforts, Smith was named to 3 All-Big East teams, and the Kings selected him in the second round of the '94 draft. He came off the bench for all 82 games as a rookie, averaging 7 points and 6 boards. The Animal was a force off the bench during his second season and was involved in an incident with Indiana Pacer Dale Davis that ultimately led to both players being suspended for 2 games and fined $20,000. The next year, Smith started 52 of 81 games, averaging nearly 10 points a night for Sacramento. However, the team traded him to Vancouver Vancouver and the deal that sent Steve Francis to the Rockets. Smith played with the Grizzlies for 2 seasons, largely coming off the bench. He signed with Washington in '99, where he played alongside Mike Smith for a few games. He started 46 games during his first year with the Wizards, but his numbers fell off the next season, and Smith left the NBA after 2001. Smith then played in the Italian League and the CBA before retiring in 2004. Since wrapping up his playing career, Smith has been working with youth back in DC. Kendrick Warren. Warren made it clear during his junior season that he wanted to attend VCU, and nothing could sway the 6'8" big man. He was an instant impact player for the Rams, averaging 16 points, 8.5 boards, and just over 2 blocks a night during his first season. Those numbers went up to 19 and 9.5 during his second year, but he was limited to just 19 games as a junior, and his numbers fell off slightly. Warren came back with a vengeance to average 18 points, 12.4 boards, and 2.2 blocks as a senior, en route to making his 4th all-conference team. Warren went undrafted in '94, but started a long career playing in the CBA and overseas. He was named the CBA Rookie of the Year in '95, averaging 18 points and 7 boards. Over the years, he would also make the All-Star team in the British League and win a title in Finland before retiring after the 2005 season. In 2009, he took a job coaching at his high school alma mater. As of 2022, he was still working at the school. His son, Kendrick Warren Jr., was playing at Iowa Western in 23-24, but doesn't appear to have a new school to start the 24-25 season. Luther Wright. Wright played 1 season under legendary coach Bob Hurley at St. Anthony, but couldn't keep his grades up and transferred to Elizabeth. The 7'2" center took his talents to Seton Hall for college ball. During his first season with the team, after sitting out a year, Wright came off the bench to average 5 points, 3 boards, and over a block a night. The next year, the big man became a more consistent starter, averaging 9 points, 7.5 boards, and 2.2 blocks a night. Wright decided to skip his final season of eligibility and head to the '93 draft, where the Jazz selected him with the 18th pick. Wright arrived at camp out of shape, reportedly weighing 325 pounds. The Jazz already had several big men on the roster, so Wright was seen as a long-term project. Unfortunately, Wright had developed a drug addiction over the years, and that didn't mix well with mental health issues related to his bipolar disorder. He played in 15 games during his rookie season before the Jazz waived him in November. However, the terms of his contract meant the Jazz paid him $153,000 per year for 25 full years. Wright then entered a mental institution, which is where he got his bipolar disorder diagnosis. In '96, he spent 30 days in a psychiatric hospital. At one point, he reportedly spent nearly 10 years homeless and addicted to drugs. Fortunately, by 2009, he had gotten himself clean and was coaching. As of 2021, Luther was still drug-free and doing well.